Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially Angelo Rose. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Present.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Smurl?
Here. Dispense with the reading of the minutes.
3A, minutes of the non-uniform pension board meeting held May 15, 2024. 3B, agenda for the non-uniform municipal pension board meeting held June 12, 2024. 3C, minutes of the composite pension board meeting held May 15, 2024. 3D, correspondence received June 13, 2024 from Business Administration regarding PFM Asset Management Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust Quarterly Investment Performance Review for fourth quarter of 2023 and first quarter of 2024. 3E, Controller's Report for the month ending May 31st, 2024.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time? I do have one. Our city City Hall and the DPW will be closed tomorrow, Wednesday, in observance of Juneteenth. So both trash and recycling will be delayed by one day. Anyone else?
Fourth order, citizen participation.
First, Joan Hodowanis.
Odawan at Scranton. My running total on the collective bargaining agreements for the firefighters were at day 440, for the police 325, and we paid Ufberg and Associates $38,000 last month. So I'm just hoping that this doesn't all get settled like 1 month before the contract runs out in 2026. That would not be very amusing. I saw in the paper that there was a public forum on the Climate Action Plan on June 13th, and it was held entirely on Zoom. And I would have liked to have participated or at least observed that, but I don't do Zoom. I don't do the internet at night. I only do that in the library. But it seems to me that something as important for the city as a climate action plan should be open to the entire public. You know, we did the walkability study twice at Lackawanna College, so I hope if we readdress this issue, we don't have a Zoom-only public forum. That's not very public. Did any of you happen to participate in that for any feedback? No? Okie dokie. I also saw in the paper that there was an RFP issued on June 1st for the Anti-Violence Initiative, and responses are due by June 17th. I would like to remind everybody, including those watching this on ECTV, that while the school district is closing for the summer, the library is open all summer long with all kinds of programs for children from infancy through 18 years. So there is something to do for children of all ages, and it's safe, it's educational, and it's fun, and it's free. What more could you ask for? I saw in the paper a story on the progress of the cleanup of Roaring Brook after the little disaster with Pennsylvania American Water dumping all that silt. Have you had any further updates on how that project is going and whether we're going to be made whole again?
John, I don't know how it's progressing. I do know they were cleaning, down behind Chamberlain, that big sump there. I know they just cleaned that out, and I assume that was from the silt that came down.
Well, if memory serves, the last Monday in July, which I think is July 29th, is the next Environmental Advisory Council meeting at 4 p.m. in the governor's room. And Bernie McGurl is a member of that council, and hopefully he'll be able to update everybody on where we stand. It's a damn pity, though, what they did to Roaring Brook after all the work he and his associates did to clean up the Lackawanna River. It's just a crying shame. The heat wave, okay? It's a twofold issue. One is what we're doing to make sure our city employees are kept safe, especially those like DPW workers, maintenance, Parks and Rec, that their outdoor activities are tempered in such a way that they're not going to be victims of heat stroke, number one. There's nothing so essential that we have to make employees sick. Number two is, what about our homeless community? Do we have the equivalent of a code red for people who are looking at these temperatures? I mean, they are bad. And with the humidity and the heat. So what are we doing for the homeless? What are we doing for the elderly who have no air conditioning? What are we doing for some of our vulnerable citizens? And I'm running out of time, so you can answer that in fifth order. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Norma Jeffries?
Norma Jeffries, Scranton resident. I want to start tonight by giving out thank yous to, I was just so pleased to come in here tonight and see the gathering for Officer Gilmartin, and to see him standing up and greeting people, that's such a blessing that we've been allowed to see someone who was just so critical, and to see him standing here and greeting us all and having his picture taken. So I thank the medical team, at Geisinger. I guess they were the first ones that worked with him, and then on to Philadelphia. So kudos to the medical staff, that worked with him, and I know that each day as we prayed for him, our prayers were certainly answered as I saw him standing here tonight. I was able to get my picture taken with him, which I was thrilled to do that, and he was just so gracious, to introduce himself to me and everything. So I thank whoever arranged that tonight. I also want to thank and wish all of the students that graduated from the Scranton School District this past, I think it was Friday night, that they graduated. I wasn't sure if it was just Scranton High and West Side, but I'm sure there were others that graduated as well. And for those that don't take the time to learn about our Scranton School District, just look at some of those kids and where they're going on to further their education. There's a lot of good things that are happening at the school district. I don't have any kids there. I don't know what I would do if I did have children that were coming through, but I do read a lot about the good things that are going on at our school district. And one of them was the testament to all the graduates, and they were just so thrilled and excited to call themselves a graduate of the Scranton School District. The next thing I want to talk about is, I guess it's advertisement. It's for this our Electric City Flower Show. We have one more week. It'll be a week this coming Saturday, and it's going to be at Naog Park. And one of the things that I wanted to let everyone know tonight is that the number 18 bus, I did find out, goes straight up Mulberry Street. You could catch it downtown, I think at the Transportation Center. And that'll take you right there to the flower show if you don't have transportation. Also, the museum has partnered with us, and they will be doing activities for the children as well. As far as face painting, I think there's going to be a balloon guy there, as well as there's a free admission to the museum. If anyone hasn't gone and taken the opportunity to go to the museum, it's a rare treat that we have right here in the city to go to the museum and to see the things that are happening there. Also, as we go through the day with the flower show, there's going to be, over by anyone that's been around knows where the old zoo is, there's going to be children's readings over there, and we've been fortunate enough to find a huge chair that our readers will be sitting in, and they'll be reading different stories to the children at that particular spot. And we do have the participation of the fire and the police department will be in that area down there, so that the children will have their own sort of a little area down by the zoo, as well as at the Everhart Museum, as far as the activities that are going to go on there as well. The time is 10 o'clock. It starts at 10 and it goes to 4. So we're just hoping for good weather because it's rain or shine. So we're hoping for good weather. Also at Naog Park on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock, we have concerts. Concerts in the park, and that just takes you back to maybe things that you did as a youth, and you take your blanket or your folding chair, and we have concerts in the park on Wednesday evenings. And then we also have them at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. These concerts are local musicians that come to play. They usually play for 2 hours, and there's dancing. If you want to get up and dance, there's people up by the podium that do. So it's a fun activity for 2 hours for not only adults, because the children enjoy going there as well with their parents. The only thing that we do need to stress is that parking is becoming an issue at the concerts. So we don't want anyone to get a ticket, and that did happen one of the recent concerts. So just obey the signs where they say no parking, and just to know and do your duty and not park on the grass, because the weight of those cars do affect the growth of the trees in the park. So that's it of what's going on at Naog Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. Ron Illman?
Yes, thank you, Council. This weekend, I passed that Junith affair at the church, at the bank, and I mean to tell you, there was a mob there. There was cars probably all over up and down the street. I passed there a little after 7, and there wasn't a speck of paper bigger than a postage stamp. I don't know how they cleaned that place up, but I sure like to commend the organizer for just an excellent job, and they could show the people with all these affairs how to do it, how to conduct one. And occasionally, Council, someone will address this mismanaged code enforcement office that is allowed by you people and this mismanaged bunch downstairs in the mayor's office, that they abuse their office, their positions. It's just something got to be done. Last year, Mr. Sunday gave me a ticket for a case of water sitting on an outside lawn chair because of all the trash next door, then lied like hell in Mr. Ware's court. I challenged him a half dozen times to come in here, and he didn't do it. A few months ago, I got a letter and a notice blocking the door. It's a window. It's been a window for over 25 years. This week, here comes another bit of harassment. I'm not going to stand for this. From code enforcement, if I don't follow their advice here, they said they will have my house condemned in 30 days. It might be a favor the way they're raising taxes like they said on the news tonight. You people have a short memory. It was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, August of 21, Mr. I don't know how to say his name properly, Valord Grannon, he won $285,000 from the city. You want to know what for? Just harassment, exactly what's going on with me in the city and this. I got it right here if you don't believe me. He was given $285,000 because code enforcement and employees disliked him. Yeah. I told my son, he didn't believe me. Right here in the paper, that's the reason he was given that. Here I go through this nonsense. She said a walk-in. She didn't see an antique plate that's been on my car since '96. That's like 30 years. She said, no license plate. Antique cars don't have to be inspected. Said there's no inspection. Besides that, it should be a state issue. She mentioned something about trash next to the house. The only trash I know of is the 2 people next door. And they've been trimming the trees left and right for years. All of a sudden, he complained I didn't trim the tree that's in the backyard. So I could do that, but it hangs over next door. It hangs over an illegal fence that's on my property. They won't allow me on my own property to fix the garage roof a few years ago. Yelled and screamed, so I didn't fix it properly. And the car and the thing, oh, let's see, what else was it? 3 of them here they complained about. How can this woman have so much power and abuse? She is completely, it's like Lee Morgan said a couple weeks ago, they're not trained for these things. And if you have a car cover on something, it's none of their business what goes on under the car, just like boat covers all over the city. They're not a code enforcement issue if it's covered up with a tarp. And next week I'll get into this issue with my neighbor. 20 years I've been arguing with them and fighting with them and going to court. She stood right here saying I fell through my garage roof. I'm growing marijuana in the driveway because I got to argue. You can't imagine what I've gone through. Now they're complaining about a tree that's hanging over in their property.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman. That's all that is signed in. Does anyone else wish to address council?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. Some of my glory was stolen by our first speaker here, but hearing it a second time isn't going to hurt anyone. First, when are the statements of financial interest going to be up on the city's webpage? We still have 2022s and 2023s are missing from the uploaded from the city's information page. The deadline was May 1st to get them in. So we've had 49 days to actually scan the documents. What's the delay in actually getting them up there for the public to actually see them? Second, have we figured out yet if Iron Mountain shredding is actually a good solution, or are we still under advisement for how to take care of papers in the city? And last, I looked to tonight's agenda. Then I looked to the Scranton Times and I laughed. Scranton plans to hire a consultant for an intervention program for its anti-violence initiative. Though we already paid for one consultant, who was pushing that a former military are the biggest threat for radicalization. But when pressed, they balked and said, well, that was not what we intended to say. Pay us and we'll deliver a solution. I guess the solution is to pay a consultant, and then when violence continues, while the consultant is working on it, just to hire another consultant. I looked at the article and noted the sacred words, by identifying stakeholders. But the only one able to afford stake in this city are those contractors and city workers who do not have to live in Scranton. Maybe the stakeholders should be changed to let them eat cake holders. The first priority we're looking for is the ability to partner and maintain relationships with nonprofits. Hell, I don't even think we've had a single pilot donation this year. But nonprofits are our priority in violence. Let's be real for a moment. We're hiring 2 separate consultants to come up with plans. They are each going to provide separate solutions. Since there's a conflict in the directions, we are going to have to form a mayor's task force, or a committee, or maybe a new board. They will argue and parse, and after much gnashing of teeth, we'll have a new plan that looks nothing like what the advisors actually proposed. Then it will be time to put the plan into motion. But wait, we don't pay for anything. So we'll, at the very end, start the search for federal grants and other funding. So we can hire another outside contractor who will have to make an implementation plan first, in stages. One of the key goals listed is helping youth move away from a deeper involvement in the juvenile justice system. But we don't have that. There are no facilities in punishment. It's a turnstile, and they all know that. We are almost half done at the year, and how have we done helping? Code red for heat. We'll think about it. That was from the smoke from Canada last year. Homeless, we don't want them, not willing to fix the issue. Let's look at the controller's report on the books tonight in our effort for humanity. Hunger Initiative, allocated $10,000, spent nothing. Homeless Outreach, allocated $10,000, spent nothing. Youth Engagement, allocated $20,000, spent nothing. Beautiful Blocks, allocated $40,000, spent nothing. Veterans organizations, allocated $85,000, spent nothing. It all looks good on the budget to have these humanitarian issues, as well as at the end of the year it can be line itemed over to covering overtime, or maybe a new outside contractor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. Virgil Argenta, Scranton. How long is too long for a refrigerator with its doors still on it to sit on the front porch of a 7-unit apartment building with young children living at it? 1107, 1109 Fifth Street has had one on the front porch for the last 3 weeks. Code enforcement stated a sticker was put on the property and no one responded. So what do we do when there's a serious threat to the danger of children? Do you know how to handle that? Infrastructure repairs. Are there any being done in the city of Scranton? Most crosswalks in town and neighborhoods seem to be non-existent. Walls and bridges are crumbling. Light poles are either cut in half or held up by other poles. Traffic lights are held up with metal straps, and most traffic signals are illegible, discolored, bent, or free-falling. What do you think of the Friday night adult swim chaos at Montage? Are we prepared for more of that? Come January, our police officers go to 12-hour shift. Has anybody really investigated this? Has anybody looked into the pros and cons of 12-hour shifts for police officers? Maybe you should. The only one that'll benefit from this is the city. Council, will you be able to provide the total number of city employees who are currently receiving unemployment compensation benefits? Will you be able to provide the number of employees that were directors or held key positions within the city collecting unemployment benefits? Will you provide the number of employees that were terminated and the number of employees who had resigned? Will you provide the number of cases that are in litigation? Can you produce the total costs incurred by the city due to unemployment benefits, including both direct payments, administrative expenses, and labor attorney costs that us taxpayers as the city of Scranton are liable for? Did we get the number of applicants for the police test yet? The pass and fails? Any update on the Scranton Police Promotional Exam lawsuit? Are the minutes of the meeting for the Housing Task Force meeting available that was conducted on Friday, May 17th, 2024? Is council aware of the new towing and storage fee charges for city towers? How about the reason why they were hit with such a drastic reduction in fees? Is anybody aware of that? Will the city now not get their cut from the tows and storage fees due to the reduced fees? This is a good one. Do you know who is now tasked with checking and inspecting towing facilities and their equipment? Do you know who's handling that? It's not the police. Lackawanna Little League, West Scranton, Falcon Field, or the Mini Invaders. The stairs were damaged in the flood of September 23. Will they be repaired before the start of the mini football season? Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Avi Menachem, Quincy Avenue, Scranton.
What, your last name, sir?
Menachem, M-E-N-A-C-H-E-M. It's been a few years since I was here. I believe it was for a zoning board, not a public council meeting. So, let's get right to it. On Thursday, the city of Scranton has arranged for SRI Demolition to come in and destroy thousands of hours of my work that I built with permits for no reason. They claim it's hazardous. Why is it hazardous? No answer. They claim it's debris, and it doesn't even resemble a structure. Well, anyone can look at it and see it's not debris. It's a structure, and my permit should still be valid. I should be able to build those. I shouldn't have someone coming in and destroying it. But their intention is to put a lien on our house for the cost of the demolition, which is close to $36,000. That's a lot of debris if that's all it is. It started with little yellow door tag, code enforcement officer, Mike Gowerty, January 5th, 2023. Kindly clean trash/debris within 48 hours. Okay, so middle of winter, not really the time I'm going to be working outside, but I didn't have any trash or debris other than under a tarp, which we were trying to get a dumpster, and et cetera. Turns out he was talking about my building materials on my front porch, which were messy looking, but nonetheless they were 2x4s, OSB, plywood. They weren't trash and debris. So cleaning up the actual trash and debris, which I did nothing. Then he came out on the 9th and put 3 quality of life violations. I never saw them. I don't know who took them off the door. Maybe he did it. He filed a lawsuit February 22nd for a May 3rd hearing before the magistrate. Magistrate didn't look at any of my evidence. Guilty, guilty, guilty. It was Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus me. Unjustified 3 lawsuits. One of them was the debris, which didn't exist. One of them was the tree in the backyard, which I started cutting before we even bought the house because I thought this branch was dangerous, so I had that cut off. And we trimmed it down. We planted to cut the whole tree. It was the middle of winter. Maples don't have leaves. Code enforcement said it's dead and dangerous. I brought pictures before and after. Guilty. And then the structures. Under construction. Code enforcement said, oh, he didn't have permits for this. I said, Your Honor, I do have the permits. They're right here. She wouldn't look at any of my evidence. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Just fines, though. A couple weeks later, I got a stop work order. I went in. Why do I have a stop work order? It was for violating a court order, which was a demolition that the magistrate had evidently ruled I had to demolish everything. So we investigated that. She didn't rule that. Code enforcement never went in there to talk with the magistrate to get that ruling like they said they were going to do. Code enforcement made up the ruling. I appealed. That was foolish. Went to Judge Jarbola in September. He called the building materials on my front porch. Oh, that's not trash and debris. But you know what it is? The baby stroller, the broom, the kids riding scooters, and that stack of plywood there. That's all trash and debris. Guilty. And he threw out the tree immediately. The structures were their main intention. Their whole goal from the very beginning was to stop me midway of constructing things with permits that Mr. John Eastman, who was the code enforcement manager, had lots of photos. And he said, you should get a second permit. So I did. Everything was fine until they hired the new code enforcement officer. He canceled our permits, came out, started giving tickets, sued me. And in the next 20 seconds, I want to plead with you to stop them from destroying our structures. It's Thursday morning, 8 a.m. They're planning to be there to rip down my privacy screen and destroy everything we built for the whole purpose of leaning our house so they can throw my wife, our 7 children, and I in the street with nothing. I did send emails repeatedly. I've heard nothing. I would appreciate it if there's a more significant response than that, like firing Tom Oleski, firing Mike Gowerty, et cetera, and stopping the demolitions, because the emails I sent should be enough.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we have no jurisdiction or say over code enforcement, nor the judge, nor the magistrate. There's nothing we can do to change any of their decisions. So I would definitely, if you're looking to stop this, go back to court and get an injunction or try to stop it that way. But there is nothing I can do or council can do to make anyone stop what has been going on. I apologize, but there's really nothing we can do. We can't stop that from happening.
They pigeonholed it into Judge Jarbola, who is, let's say, less than sympathetic.
Okay,
to
well,
people
I'm not
like
going
us.
to speak of judges or Attorney Gilbride. Are we allowed to even speak of this if it's in court or if there's a court order to do this?
Well, Mr. President, it seems that your first recommendation to Mr. Menachem is the correct one. If you're having a problem with the legal system, then I would suggest you talk to counsel, see if there's something they can do to get that stopped. There are things in the law that can do that, but this council cannot do that for you. It would have to come from a ruling from a court. So I would suggest, if you haven't done so already, reach out to someone, some counsel, and see if they can get this stopped before Thursday.
I've talked with attorneys. I filed legal petitions myself, got the first one signed. The second one had to go through Judge Jarbola. They said no other judge can have anything to do with this. And of course, he's not going to stay his own rulings. And so I would have to go to Superior Court or Commonwealth Court, whichever one. The attorneys I was working with said, I've seen your work. You can file the petition the same as we can, and you do it, and you save $2,500. So I did that, and that's it. So Thursday morning, I don't know what's going to happen, but
Okay.
I'm doing everything I can. I've taken up too much of the time already. I would appreciate if there's anything that can be done to stop this from happening. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster. And,
Thank you.
All right.
I'm
thank
sorry,
you.
that's all we can do. Anyone else? Thank you, Attorney Gilbride.
Good evening, Council. Mike Mancini, Scranton. Again and again, you hear stories just like that. People being impacted the wrong way by somebody who doesn't know who they're impacting. I'm talking about our current mayor of Scranton. Virgil Argenta 2 weeks ago opened up a box, and that box included a property that's been on the books since 1988, with just land without a dwelling on the property where you just pay for the land. Now, the question was, how many are there actually out there according to the reassessment? We're looking at over thousands according to Solicitor Gilbride. All right. There's no statute of limitations when it comes to the city of Scranton or any municipality or any church. I know this firsthand because I was responsible for the city and the county placing delinquent taxes for collection. We went back to 1940, all right? So if you're looking at 1,000 properties going back 10 years, an average amount of $2,500 between the city, the county, and the school, looking at $25 million. You know, the city split would be, what, 10, 12 million. You know, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. We're looking at about $25 million if you go after it properly. And like I said, there's no statute of limitations. There's a lot of good people that pay taxes, hardworking dollars, that are actually afraid to sit on their porches, you know, in fear of our current climate. The least we could do is pursue that effectively, get those on the books, get them paying properly, because it's not fair to the people that pay taxes, upkeep their homes, and be responsible citizens of our city. Now, another thing I want to talk to you about is the pave cuts. You know, Mr. King addressed this by asking Solicitor Gilbride about our ordinances. Now, I looked into these ordinances. I know exactly what they are. The utilities are not sealing our pave cuts properly. When they don't seal them properly, we end up having to foot the bill. All right? Again, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. You're looking at $500,000 to fill these pave cuts. It becomes an issue. All right? So here's my question. Riley Associates is going out looking at these pave cuts. Simple question. How many have they determined they weren't done properly? Because in my estimation, none of them are done properly. How many of them actually received a fine from Riley Associates? Are we getting our bang from our buck from Riley Associates, or are they not even going out? Because in my opinion, it's the latter of the two. When you have a swear pattern for pretty much every street in the city of Scranton, when you have the utilities cutting open our streets months after they're being paved, there's no oversight. The least we could get is oversight from this council. All right? We have these ordinances in place. It's up to you to effectively address them and enforce them. because people are living paycheck to paycheck. If you notice the current climate of the city, you know, it's harder for people to take care and manage their properties effectively. And with that being said, when our roads get affected, people really don't want to work on their houses as much, and that's how we start with our blight. All right. Let's move on to curfew. I watched the county commissioners meeting today. To my surprise, there's 909 cases through family children services that are backlogged. They had 23 caseworkers at the beginning of the year. They're up to 40. All right. It's alarming that the school system cannot notify the family court system about any type of gang active members. All right. So we're not helping each other here. The least this body can do is do its part. Each one of you are parents. Start a curfew. It's very important to our city. Our children are our future. Like I said last week, always systems coming through in the not so distant future. Please do things the proper way. We expect you to do so. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Council. Rick Little, Scranton. It's like a never-ending movie. We watch it, you live your life, you're watching these things, and certain people, you know, pay attention to the details and notice all the deja vus that happen. And I say a lot of that in Scranton. I remember this was the last place where Robert Kennedy came before he went to the Ambassador Ballroom and allegedly was murdered by a lone gunman, dashing his Democrat presidential election. But these people who are really running things, because he wasn't shot by Sirhan. What we have here is no accountability in the government things, because the world is really a bunch of mobs, if you want to look at it. They're mobs. They're people in power who have a certain thing, and you know, we talk about government power, and they have a certain sticks that they can use, and the sticks are the law, you know, with enforcement by the police. And what I see happening all across America is just communism coming in, you know, but it's really been a progressive thing. The family courts, the most funded courts of all courts, and then and they're making single mother families based, but you have to go back to the 1965 LBJ's Title VI or something, all this money, you know, the welfare money, the welfare mothers, the fatherless families. You know, we just had Father's Day, but in the media, it's like, oh, this is Pride Month for the whole month, you know, but there was no funding, federal funding for schools before 1980, when Jimmy Carter came in and said, yeah, we're doing it. People got used to the whole federal funding of education. And it's a generational thing that has gone on here and everywhere. And this upcoming election is most important mainly because it's the same people in the same positions with the same fear stick tactics have been running the show. And, you know, they got everybody arguing on the sidelines about potholes and signs and you know, the murders, the muggings. You know, this is a sanctuary city, and they're trying very hard to keep it, oh, this isn't a sanctuary city. But I think people can see how the crime and all the people that are coming into the city, you know, being put up by the mob or government or whatever you want to call it, 501(c)(3)s. I mean, people have to look into the 501(c)(3)s because they're doing the same thing. What is wealth? You know, the church, you know, separation of church and state, they're not even teaching the kids what they need to know, otherwise people wouldn't keep saying that phrase. But there's oh God, I lost my thought. Anyway, this congressional district has had the same person in office for 6 terms. He's running for a 7th term, and he is one of the biggest problems in this area. I hope everybody votes for Ron Bresnahan, because I see that.
Sir, we're not here about votes. Please stick to your original thought.
What?
We're not speaking about elections.
No, I'm talking about change that has to happen.
Then talk about change, not elections.
People mixing up what politics is and what right and wrong is. That's the problem. That's the problem. And they divide it, the media divides it into 2 things. It's Republican, Democrat, black, white. All this division. People have to come together.
Thank you. Anyone else?
5th order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, if we could, I think I had asked before when Mr. Argenta had mentioned about some of these properties that have obviously not paid taxes for since 1988-89. It's possible to get a list of the city properties, and if we could find out exactly how far back we can go to recoup, if it's all the way, perfect, and what the process is going to be for trying to recoup that.
Mr. King, if I can respond.
Sure.
I did in fact check that out. Currently, they do not have the list that they can provide. I guess towards the end of the reassessment, they will, at that point, we will be able to get the information.
And then they'll hopefully be able to pursue them. Okay.
Correct.
Great, thank you. The other thing was the statements of financial interest. Can we check with the administration and find out why those haven't been uploaded since 2022? I think that's important.
Yeah, Mr. King, our council office and the administration are following up with the respective boards, authorities, and other public officials to finalize the list.
Okay,
But I'll
great.
get you a status.
Thank you. And I know it was brought up about the sign coming into the city. It was overgrown. That's my understanding. DPW took care of that and knocked that down correctly, weed whacked it and cleared it and made it presentable. So I appreciate that. And tomorrow is Juneteenth celebration. A lot of people are off work tomorrow. And, you know, a lot of people, including myself, never really knew the exact meaning of Juneteenth. And the celebration marks the day in 1865 when enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, actually found out that they'd been freed. But this was 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln, you know, had done the Emancipation Proclamation. So it's kind of a really big deal, and it's nationally, it's a national holiday tomorrow. So I think it's important to recognize that. So I want to do that now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
I do have a few. So I have some answers from last week. One thing that came up on public comments tonight, though, since Riley Associates has been doing our pave cut inspections, could we ask that question as to has Riley Associates found any cuts that have not met our city ordinance in terms of restoration?
I'll get that information, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Voldenberg. Last week, I asked about Meadowbrook project, the easements process and how they're being handled, and where we are with that. The city let us know, or the administration let us know, that they're working a way to schedule a public meeting. So they're hoping to have a public meeting with the residents that are affected by that Meadowbrook project, hopefully as early as June 24th is what the date that we've been given. So we are looking to, they are looking to get that scheduled. I asked about, could we have an update on the timeline for West Scranton, the West Scranton stormwater project, and the answer we got back was that Borton Lawson is currently in the study and pre-design phase of that project, so results of the phase are due shortly, and the city's going to hold a public meeting to share those findings in those potential areas as well. So with West Mountain, it's going to be, they're in the study and design and pre-design phase, and they will get a meeting with those residents. There were some questions asked about Engine 15, if the building was out for appraisal, and will the building be placed for sale if possible? And the answer that came back was the appraisal of Engine 15 property at 1409 Ash Street was last conducted on July 28th of 22 by Canton Realty, and at the time the building was appraised at $150,000. The city's not developed a plan to sell the building, and as council may recall, some other responses were given on March 26th about animal control officers that are currently utilizing that facility while the Sorrenti Center is being completed. So they're the answers to those questions, and that's all I have, Mr. Smurl.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes. First, I want to thank Councilman King for bringing up Juneteenth. I want to wish people a happy Juneteenth tomorrow, and I was sad to have missed the celebration that happened over the weekend that's hosted by the Black Scranton Project. I think it was their 5th year doing it, and I've been able to attend most years, and so I missed out. But I heard it went very well, and it was a great time. So I'm glad that they're continuing to celebrate and host that at their place on Main Ave. I wanted to bring up a few responses that I had received. I think had not brought them up during fifth order, so just wanted to go through a few of them on questions that I had for the administration. First, I know we had been asking about meeting minutes for the unsheltered task force. They said that minutes were not being recorded at the meeting, and that I'm a member of the task force, which I'm aware of, and I was there, and I was happy to provide a report or summary after the meeting during one of our council meetings. However, I may not be able to attend all the meetings, especially now that I'm back at work and done with my maternity leave, so don't have as much availability during the day to be able to attend those meetings, so I think it would be helpful for us to have minutes. So Mr. Voldenberg, if we could request that in future meetings they do take minutes and are able to provide those.
I'll request that, Dr. Rothchild.
Excellent. And also had received some responses on questions I had regarding the pave cut agreement or the ordinance that we have on pave cuts. And they said that the city does not enter into agreements with the utilities, rather they apply for permits for each project. But am I not right in saying that we could still revoke the permit if the work is not being done properly, or there's still consequences for violating those permits? So I'm a little unclear on why there are still no consequences for these issues that we're having with the pave cuts and with the utility companies. But I'm hoping we can explore those more and determine how we can hold them accountable, as I know everyone in our city would like to do. And also on the matter of the OpenGov monthly reports, we had asked about updates on code enforcement, licensing, and permits on the reports that we had previously been receiving. They said that we do receive quarterly permit license reports and monthly code enforcement reports, which provide any updates to complaints submitted through council. biannual code enforcement reports, which provide information on the number of door tags, quality of life tickets, citations, vacant properties, et cetera. And the city had switched to a quarterly report following an email received from our clerk in early March. So we do receive those quarterly reports, and I believe those are included in third order. And also last week, I discussed a lot of concerns on the work that's been occurring on Myrtle Street, and had gotten some more information on that from American Water. They had said that as for the issues along Myrtle, the first was a sinkhole caused by poor compaction. They said it was on a UGI cut, not from American Water. And all American Water projects have compaction testing done along trench line and all service cuts. This testing is done by Riley Engineering. The second cut that I spoke of last week, that was made because a customer was missed and waited over 2 months to inform American Water that they were without water. But I'm still not clear on how they were missed in the first place. And they scheduled a meeting to discuss both cuts with the city and Riley, our engineer, and they'll mill and overlay any section of Myrtle Street per our ordinance. There's also a question that we had received about 806 North Irving, and that was a sewer issue backing up into a customer's home. And they're also going to have a discussion with Valicon and their paving subcontractor about moving equipment during the night. And the stone in the tree lawn will be replaced with topsoil. Topsoil and concrete restoration are typically 4 or 5 weeks behind excavation. So those are the responses that I received on that. And I believe that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, I got a couple responses from questions I posed last week. There's been a lot of questions about the Sorrente Center and the newly proposed CTC Command Center. So what I got, I didn't get a lot. It's a little vague, but we'll see what's going to happen. Is the Sorrente Center is primarily used to secure both police and fire special purpose response equipment for high-risk operations. Also, it said the site holds assets acquired through federal grant funding and should be protected. We get that. So, and they said there's some type of training going there. So we did ask for them to come in, and this, then there's going to be an essential enduring task force for the Sorrente building after the build-out at CTC. So we'll probably get more information when we have they come in for caucus. So I just want to report that out. Also, last week I posed a question to DPW and administration. If the city has a record of basins, and determine whose responsibility are they, the storm drains. The city owns some, Pennsylvania American Water is responsible for some also. So the response I got was there are occasions that require our teams to establish ownership of particular drains between city and Pennsylvania American Water on the spot. DPW is improving how to track these drains moving forward, including filtering map data, stamping physical basins, and et cetera. So we're going to get some information from that. So then I got from a resident, where is it? On the corner of Penn and New York, there's an old Greyhound bus. I got pictures, Mr. Voldenberg. I'll send them to you later. That has flat tires, and it's loaded with junk. And so for that case, could we have zoning officer Negron go out and maybe, also code enforcement to take a look at this? So it looks, when you see the pictures, you'll see why they both need to go. All right.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew.
All right. And also, so somebody sent me a picture. So we all know what our red recycling bins look like, right? And what they're used for. Correct? Right? I know there was a lot of confusion this year with the calendar. We only got half a year calendar. So now added to the confusion for the residents, someone sent me a picture of the new red recyclables that they're, you can come and get and pick up. But guess what it says on it? Now these are Historically, they're for paper. The new ones state that Scranton recycles plastic, glass, aluminum, steel, and tin. Nothing about paper on here. So here we go again, because I know residents have come here and complained and said, you know, I put my garbage out in one of the blue containers and they refuse to take it from administration's directive. Or I put the wrong stuff in the wrong recycling bin, and because the administration, you know, it directs DPW not to pick it up. Can't pick it up if it's in the wrong bin. So guess what? This bin states now the usage should be everything but paper. Even if there was paper written on here, it'd make a little sense, and they could say, we do recycle everything. But no, the red has always been for paper. So I want to know what happened here. Something happened here that doesn't make any sense. Please find out, because now we're adding more confusion to the residents of how to put out recyclables. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. I'll start with 421 Colfax Avenue. I had asked about where its place is on the demolition list, and now I'm told it is not on the demolition list. But I believe it was on the demolition list, but they said they were going to send code enforcement up and look and see if there's anything we can do with the sidewalks up there. They're really in terrible condition. I also asked about Pensy Supply getting to Nag Park and backfilling the side of the pavement. They haven't gotten to there yet, nor have they gotten to Mr. Voldenberg, the one on Hemlock Street. If we could send a reminder, they're having a flower show at Nag Park. Hopefully they'll get that done before we have lawsuits. And also the people on Hemlock Street. They told them they would take care of it. I believe that was 2 weeks ago, and they have not. So I don't know how far behind they are, but it's only a matter of backfill. So if they would please attend to that. Also, the house that I mentioned last week, it was rear 516 Palm Street. So the actual address is 1649 Hamp Court, corner of Hamp Court and South Lentz Place. Code enforcement was to follow up there again. I believe it has multiple citations at the magistrate's office. I hope there'll be more citations written, and I don't know what we can do to push this through faster to get this thing demolished. This has been many, many, many years. And if you go by there now, you could hardly see the house. So I don't even know if it's a full house anymore, but hopefully we can move forward on that one. The 800 block of North Main Avenue, we asked to have a damaged vehicle with no license plate removed from there. I don't know if that was done this week yet. And also on the corner of Crane Street and Cedar Avenue, a person had sent me pictures of a broken piece of the bottom of a stop sign, and he actually tripped on it, wound up in the hospital, and so we're asking for DPW or somebody to go down there and pull that thing out of the ground. I also have an update on the Greenridge Street Bridge. This is from DOT, and it is what they're going to be doing in the near future. On approximately July 15th, Nayog Avenue will be closed from Greenridge Street to the entrance of Pioneer Beverage. So you'll be able to still get into Pioneer Beverage. The area is going to be used for construction of the temporary bridge that they were going to be installing across the creeks. It will be 2 lanes, and there'll also be a walking lane on it. There will be no restrictions for tractor trailers, so it will not hinder deliveries or anything. While that temporary bridge is up, they will then take down the existing Greenridge Street Bridge. The detour for the first part of the part they're doing by Pioneer Beverage on Nayog Avenue, I have that. It's pretty long, so I will give it to Mr. Voldenberg, maybe put it on the city's website to show the detour for that one. And then when they get closer with the bridge, if there are any detours, but I don't believe they're going to, because the bridge is going to be open. The start of that will be right around Labor Day. They said around Labor Day, so a week or two. Either way, they said. That's when they're going to start taking down the other bridge. And they said the walking trail may be closed at times, but their plan is not to shut it and not to close it if they don't have to. So hopefully they'll keep that open for people that use it. And the final thing I have is we did some research, and this is kind of in response to questions I had about starting a curfew and the rise of juvenile crime in the city of Scranton. So what I have found in Pennsylvania is the PA Title 23, Chapter 55, Liability and Tortious Acts of Children. So what that is, it describes the way that criminal proceedings can be held against a child or a juvenile in Pennsylvania, and it shows how it's proceeded with their parents or guardians of a minor, and who is responsible. It also gives the monetary limits of what these families can be charged. And the monetary limit is $1,000 for a defense, and then at the maximum to any one person is $2,500 for all injuries or destruction or more than one person involved. So the most any parent can be liable for is basically $2,500 for their child or whoever they're the guardian of. So what this means is if the parents are to be held accountable for their child or their children's criminal actions, it is allowed in Pennsylvania. So I don't know how we can enforce that. So what I want to know is if a juvenile is charged in the city of Scranton with underage drinking, retail theft, shoplifting, and they go on and on with a bunch of offenses. I want to know how we can, if we can, hold the guardian or the parent responsible for these fines. I believe we can. If the state of Pennsylvania says you can, I believe the city of Scranton also can. So the reason for all of this is not to try to punish kids or fines or push fines. My reason for this is that I understand everybody's idea about a curfew, but I don't want to say that a juvenile, there should be a curfew. It's really not what I want to do, because this isn't really the people that are committing crimes. If the people that are committing crimes should be cited, and then if their parents are held accountable for this. But at this time, if we do have a curfew and the police department picks this underage child up and there are no parents at their home, we cannot legally drop that child off. We become, in turn, we become babysitters. So please don't. So if the police officer, if we pick a child up after curfew, 17 years old, we cannot do anything with them except take them to their parents or take them to the police headquarters. And what do? Should we put them in a holding cell? No, I don't think that's the answer. So with that said, what I want to do, and with the agreement of my four colleagues, is I want to ask our attorney, Tom Gilbride, for his legal opinion on how we move forward on, advise us on how we can hold the parents of all juvenile children or the guardians of these children responsible for basically paying all of the fines that are created. I know right now we are really not collecting all of those. So if everybody's in favor of that, I would like our attorney just to investigate that and then to come back and give us an opinion on if that is possible. Anybody else comment on it?
So we're going to explore looking into adding, I mean, I guess this question would be for Mr. Gilbride. We're going to explore adding an ordinance. Would that be the route that we're going to take on this? To add an additional fine? That would
the
be
state
levied
has
on the
already
parent.
limited your ability to do that. State law takes precedence over the local. They have told you what you were able to do by virtue of the statute that was cited by our president. So that right now is the limit of your, not what we're able to do, but what the enforcers, which would be the Scranton Police, because that would be what they could cite them, and then any damage that they did. And when you say, the interesting thing with that, and I know we've talked about this briefly, when you talk about tortious activity, you know, it's kind of like the old Supreme Court case. I can't tell you what pornography is, but when I see it, I'll be able to identify it. Well, that's the same thing. The judges in the courts tell you what that activity would be. It does list certain activities that could be examples of tortious activity in the actual legislation that our president cited. But to the extent that that legislation talks about what the penalties are, that's your limits.
That's the what? I didn't hear the last piece you said.
To the extent that the legislation speaks to you're limited by what that legislation says. So if it limits it to $2,500, which it does.
Yeah, so at this point, we're going to explore what route the city has to take in order to enforce it, or?
Well, enforcing is, the police have to enforce it. There's really not much more activity. This council can't take any activity to encourage more enforcement other than letting it be known that you would like it enforced. It's on the books.
All right, so we're looking for buy-in from administration to help facilitate this and hold parents accountable.
Correct.
Which could also be a deterrent for some of the current behavior. I'm for it.
Thank you.
And I'd like to get some feedback from the Scranton Police Department.
With regard to what issue, Mr. King? So I'm aware.
With regard to their feelings on instituting a curfew, in terms of, we already know that they're shorthanded as it is.
I have had conversations with them on that. They do not feel they have the manpower. They do not feel that they were hired to be babysitters, because ultimately, as Mr. Smurl said, once you pick up those underage children and take them, the first, under Pennsylvania law, your first obligation is to take them to their parents. If you take them to their home and their parents are not there, you now own it.
And we used to have a house of detention.
And we don't have a house of detention
anymore.
locally, which, what are you detaining them for? That's the other thing, you know, it sounds nice, we can just, we'll put them in a cell. That's not the way this works with children, you know? And so we have to be careful when we're talking about this in regard to keeping in mind what the children's rights are as opposed to what we think it should be. Because once you take them into custody, which, and we can say it might not be legal custody, but once you physically take them into custody, you are responsible. If something happens to that child while they are in the city's custody, you can expect someone dressed like me to be filing a lawsuit the very next day. I mean, that's going to happen. So you're going to have the issue of, it's really less about legal. Legally, can you establish curfews? Yes, you can. There are cities across the United States who have entertained it. Some have entertained it and turned it down completely. The ones that have actually instituted curfews tend to be the bigger cities. I know that Philadelphia looked at it and just instituted one in 2022. Pittsburgh looked at it. I do not believe they put one into place. Cincinnati looked at one. But they're always the bigger cities who have more police officers. They have the hardware ready to take care of these children. So they will have neighborhood safe houses, they call them, which are, police can take them there. There's adult supervision there and then the parents come and get them. And that is the way it is. But that costs money. So then it becomes, how much do the five of you feel our citizens are willing to pay to put those systems into place? Because if you're going to spend more money, you're going to have to raise more money. So it's a lot bigger than the law. The law allows it. It's our situation. Do we have the mechanics in place? Do we have the wherewithal to sustain the cost of instituting a system like that? And for how much?
Well, right, and I'm not interested in developing a new ordinance that we can't enforce. I mean, why are we going to do that?
Back to the other one, I would be in favor of exploration to see what we need, what next steps may be needed when it comes to parents being held accountable for children's activities or minors' activities.
Well, again, you already have it in place. The state law provides you the ability to do that. It's now about enforcement. A city law is not going to assist in that or take away from that. That law exists.
So I guess for my clarification, what I was asking was what action were we taking just now? That was my question, I guess, to you, was what was the action that we were looking to take? Mr. Smurl was looking for our support in that? And
You'll have to tell me. My understanding was to look into it. I have done already copious amounts of research into it. I think you can tell just by, my answers. And again, it really comes down to how much would you want to spend on something like this, and are the taxpayers willing to absorb those costs? And is it worth it, too? I mean, the other side of this is, what is it that we're trying to stop?
Well, our final goal is to hold the parents of the juveniles that we're having problems with financially responsible for their child's action. So I want to look into see exactly what we are doing now that we are it's not being accomplished right now. So therefore, I want to see what we can do to make that work.
Well, I can reach out to our police department through the administration and determine what is being done currently. But again, the law is there already. You have the mechanism to do that. It's really about how are they enforcing it, and that we will report back to you for our next meeting.
Great.
Good.
Okay. Thank you. Frank?
5B for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton to the Department of Community and Economic Development for up to $250,000 to be used towards the City of Scranton's trail connection from Cloversfield to Lackawanna Heritage Valley National and State Heritage Area LHVA project.
At this time, entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, no business at this time. Seventh order, no business at this time. Eighth order, no business at this time.
If there are no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned.